we've been doing research for some time, expert research, mostly on contract, but occasionally researching into things that take our interest. And a year or so back we thought it would be useful to try and give more shape to our research agenda and find better ways of communicating what we'd learnt through the process. So we took £1 million out of our own reserves and established the think tank now called the Centre for Innovation in Learning, and its first report, as you've heard, is launched today, Beyond Bleach, Skills Policy for the Upturn. We've got unemployment growing faster, certainly no longer talking about skills gaps and skills shortages to the extent that we used to, but interestingly within that growth in unemployment you'll find that it's disproportionately hitting higher qualified people as well as the traditional group, the unqualified and the unskilled. Rapid, unpredictable change. Well, it's often said that this crisis is a failure of markets, but perhaps unnoticed underneath that, we feel it's also a failure of centralised planning, as all those nice, smooth trends that people had rather decided were laws and would continue forever have suddenly been turned upside down. The other big thing, of course, you've just heard George talking about downstairs, is we're running out of money, and therefore value for money becomes the big issue in any policy area, and skills is no exception to that. And I think it's true to say that when you look at the initiatives, you look at policy as it's set up at the moment, there's a great deal of dead weight. There's a great deal of stuff being funded out of the public purse that frankly would have happened anywhere. So the facts have definitely changed, and it's a good time to re-examine policy, to re-examine the direction and look at things afresh. The report attempts to do that. I think it does it in some considerable detail. The first big issue that comes out of it is that skills policy and funding rules make it difficult for the skills system, for colleges and training providers to respond adequately to the recession. Frankly, the rules are wrong, the systems are wrong. Policy doesn't help either, particularly the policy which is driven from the centre, driven through targets. Often providers are expected to chase targets in particular areas when they can see that that's not the most effective use of the resources that they ought to have at their disposal. The second key issue for us is that young people have been worst affected in the recession, and this is different from last time round. Certainly last time round there was a problem with young people. A lot of initiatives were launched to try and deal with that problem, but we just heard George talk about pensions downstairs. Of course, last time round there was an escape route for older people in their 50s, late 50s, or even in some cases their early 50s could take their pension earlier and provide a soft landing for organisations that found this was quite a cost-effective way of downsizing. Of course, that option is no longer available, and so where is the cheap downsizing to be got? Well, it's at the other end of the market for young people. Key issue 3 for us, adding those together, skills policy needs to change to ensure that Britain can respond to the demands of the recession and to growing unemployment as we move into an upturn. We know that unemployment is going to be with us for some time, but we don't know quite what the shape of the new economy will be. We know that last time round we went in very broad terms as a manufacturing economy. We came out as a service economy with a heavy reliance on finance. Maybe that pattern will change. Maybe things will be different this time around. We bring forward a series of recommendations. The first is, you won't be surprised to learn, to reform Train to Gain. To reform Train to Gain, particularly there's so much evidence that a lot of Train to Gain, not all of it, but a lot of it represents poor value for money. Train to Gain offers in some cases 100% funding to the employer, which is great for the employer, but I put it to you that when 100% state subsidy is available, it's a bit of a no-brainer. You don't have to make that value-added calculation for yourself. Whereas if what's on offer is an encouragement, an inducement, say at 50%, then you're having to put your own resources in, you're having to make sure that actually what you do is in the interests of your business and is in the interests of the individuals who give up their time and the part of their life to follow that particular program. The fact that people had to think carefully before they signed up for the scheme would probably reduce its popularity, but so be it. And also, of course, it would in any case liberate funds which could be used for other purposes. And that funding could then be recycled. We have things to say in the report about where that funding might go, and some of this was picked up actually in announcements here yesterday. We think there's a strong case for investing in college and other provider places and in the apprenticeship system. And the report refers to evidence that if funding is put into traditional routes which are understood by individuals, routes which are understood by employers, then they are more likely to create benefits for the young people and others who engage with them than schemes which have been specifically designed for a narrow purpose. For example, alleviating unemployment, and we all know, and we've had these schemes going back now many, many years, but these schemes, no matter how good they are, and many of them may be very good indeed, they have a difficulty in the marketplace because one, they're new, they're not known, and they'll be associated with a problem. The sharp edge of skills is at level 3. That's where the international competitiveness aspects are most sharp, and the focus on lower levels has not helped, has not provided funding, perhaps where it could have made a greater difference economically. There are proposals knocking around on all sides of the political spectrum now for learning accounts, and we think learning accounts are an interesting and positive development, but we have done a bit of work which suggests that the design of those learning accounts is absolutely crucial. The proposals at the moment, government proposals at the moment, are for a virtual learning account. We think, on the basis of what evidence there is, that accounts should be real. There should be real money involved. There should be a contribution from those who benefit, and if that's the case, then they stand a better chance of emboldening the resolve of people who feel they ought to get re-involved in skills acquisition, re-involved in the skills system. So our fundamental argument, I suppose, is one about agility. It's allowing a system the agility to respond, because let's face it, the world has become very, very unpredictable. Thank you very much indeed.